Good evening, greetings, and welcome. This is Ron McNeil, your brother and your friend, coming at you again with another message of hope, redemption, and salvation. Um, I got a little interesting topic to unravel or unpack, as they say today, about social worth. Social worth. I'm not saying I came up with the term, but certainly I looked at it from a social perspective and how the social affects the personal. For example, if you got if you're a black person like me and you don't have adequate self-esteem, which hardly anyone is going to admit, that low self-esteem may be sponsored and originate from social injustice, right? I mean, if America, ruling America, never tells you anything good about your humanity, other than they show you as a black person on the 6 o'clock news around the country committing some crime or some heinous act. That's usually the image that most black people get about other black people and ultimately themselves. So that social injustice, right, will affect social worth of black people. That will come back to the individual with low self-worth, which we call low self-esteem, right? Case in point, me and my wife went to go see Oppenheimer yesterday. We were talking about Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, the guy that created the bomb that blew up the two cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. I'm sure that most history buffs are familiar with that. That when a ruling white man in America created that bomb, he was like, I'm getting y'all back for attacking Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor. And that we already know, right? That's old history, 70-some years ago. 70, 75 years ago. That was that 40, something, 43, 44, 1943, 44, when they attacked Pearl Harbor. And America came back, Robert Oppenheimer, and of course, Albert Einstein, and other great so-called European thinkers. I won't say so-called, they were great thinkers, even though they knew what they had came up with was evil, had evil intent. And only the governments wanted to control that knowledge that they had in order to control other people. But I do know my wife asked, she said, what are all these white guys doing here? Because she went to sleep, and I did too for the most part. Even though it was a hell of a movie from what I did see. But the problem is, back to the social worth for black people and the self-esteem that black people collectively are in desperate need of, it was a thorn in the side, once again, for black people. I mean, when she said what these white guys here doing it, they up there enjoying and glorifying in white intellect. White folks coming up with the ideas of how to do this to control and create this. And it didn't speak at all about black folks. It wasn't a black person in that movie because there was no need to have a black person. This was about white greatness. The movie Oppenheimer was about white greatness, white ingenuity. Even though they tried to see if this guy was a spy or not committed to the United States government, which I can't understand, because you got that type of knowledge to control the world, you can sell that knowledge and jump on the other side team, and that'll be an enemy to us. So I do understand white America's motive for drilling this guy through courts and trying to find out was he a good guy or not. But that's not the message I'm saying to you. The message, like I said, is social worth, because everything there glorified and highlighted European greatness. It did nothing for black people. It said nothing to us about anything dynamic about black people. And that's always been a problem. So you black persons, people, if you will, when you leave your neighborhood, no, I'm sorry, you ain't leave your neighborhood. When you're in the neighborhood, when you're in the hood, and you see unnatural Human behavior. Ask yourself what's going on. Why is so-and-so selling drugs? Right? Buying drugs, using drugs, committing crimes. Right? Why are many people obese? Even the skinny fat. If you did a body fat test on them, they fat on the inside and skinny on the outside, and very, very sick. Because in my gym, not here, it's my mom's garage, I do my recording there. But in my gym, over the years, I had clearly said that you're sick, the skinny people are going to die first. Because outwardly, externally, they don't think anything is wrong with them. Anyway, back to the point though. When you see this devastation, even with the food in the black community, this is an attack on black people, which is the creation of the ghetto. Drugs, right, as I just mentioned, usage and selling, right, how it demoralizes everybody. Alcohol, because you know in the black community, they got a church, storefront church, and alcohol, and they got a food swamp that they call it now. I just call it toxic restaurants. And of course, a food desert where you cannot get fresh fruit and vegetables. Well, when you have all those things in the black community, it reinforces your low self-esteem because you're not getting social esteem. No one's endorsing you. And I don't know if many black people don't understand that when you look at the 6 o'clock, any time of the day news, when they mention about black people, it's almost invariably a knock, a belittled, undermining, degrading statement that knocks and denounces black people. It always puts black people in a dark shade. It marginalizes us. It exploits us like you're nothing, you're no good, you're a bum. And as a result, we act out with a self-fulfilling prophecy because no one socially, the ruler elites to control the narrative, right? They never say anything good about us. And we act out what they say bad about us. They say you bad directly and indirectly every day because they want to create a permanent underclass and justify that permanent underclass. Y'all guys, you people are inferior. What have you done? And the only thing you do is what we show you do on the 6 o'clock news, 5 o'clock news, 9, 10 o'clock news, whatever. They show that constantly, right? And that's where we at. And that hurts us from having the social esteem to get the self-esteem. Now, don't get me wrong. Every so often they do show, and they may mention about black brilliance. Have somebody took an SAT, PSAT, or what are the new college admission tests nowadays, and ace the whole thing. Because we got genius in our ethnic group just like anybody else. And they will show that from time to time. But usually when they show black excellence, it's almost to serve them, as we all know, right? Either we playing football, basketball, or baseball, hitting a baseball, dunking a basketball, running or catching a football. And that's usually to entertain them. So they will make us look great when it comes to entertainment. But they will never make us look great coming up with a philosophical statement, a mathematical equation. No, because they cannot run the risk of some black genius sitting inside his mama's garage basement. I'm not talking about me, or somebody doing something real creative that can challenge, if not undermine, their existing status, like challenging the American empire. They can't have it. So for them not to make a mistake and to make sure things stay positive in their direction, if you will, which is negative for us. Like I remember Farrakhan, that one record years ago, I cracked up, we was in class, and my man, cameraman Mike, he played a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. He was just quoting off Farrakhan's one of those Calypso records he made back in the day. But it was funny, but it's true. Because their heaven is our hell. Their heaven is contingent upon our hell. And our hell is contingent upon their heaven. Meaning, emphasize, meaning, the only way they can have heaven is to make sure we get hell. Because all the stuff that we need and want, like reparations, fair housing, fair jobs, fair education, particularly trying to reverse. They didn't reverse. They stopped college admissions in Ivy League schools. Basically, they don't want us to go there, so we won't get those good jobs. That's all that is, and that further plunges down that social esteem, which leads to self-esteem that black people desperately, desperately need. But back to the ghetto. When you look in the ghetto and you see all this anger and frustration and bitterness, that's low self-worth from low social esteem, which you don't get self-esteem. And they know it, and anybody that's thinking about it knows it. So when you see some black person, even yourself, doing something crazy that doesn't make any sense, that's anti-life, that's anti-humanity, that's anti-upliftment and growth and development, you ask yourself, where did it originate from? What's the origin of this? It's called structural racism. Because one aspect of structural racism is low social worth, which leads to low social esteem. There's no people on planet Earth can be a viable force to reckon with, if you have low self-esteem, because you're not getting social esteem, which leads to low personal self-esteem. And the way to counter this, and we talked about this, you got to remind yourself every day. It's unfortunate you're not going to get it from, you're not going to get it from the man in power. You're not going to get it from your boss. You may get a little bit from your family. You may get it from your woman, or your man, whoever, your partner. But you're not going to really get it because they don't have it. Right? Collectively. They don't have enough self-worth. Not to the point that it give you the motivation and power, drive, determination, get out there and make life a dynamic situation for you. I made something happen. Even if that don't mean nothing, you just got a job. You went from being a bum, if you will, by being lackluster, not a bum because you're trifling by nature, a bum because you've been a victim, a casualty, a war against you. Because structural racism, social low self-worth is a war. Anytime you have a media that never says anything good about you, they're indirectly waging war against your humanity, your womanhood, girls, and your manhood, my man. They're waging war against you because they're not saying anything about you positive. Everybody needs somebody to say something good about them. Hey man, how you doing? You look good. Hey baby, you look good. I'm happy to see you. You're a wonderful, dynamic human being. Even if you don't believe it, it's important to say it. I agree with one European god, they call him Socrates. He said, we're fighting a hard battle. He said, be kind to everybody you come across because they're fighting a hard battle. Well, that's for damn sure in the black community. You fighting a hard battle because the war of social worth, socialist worth. You don't have no social esteem because of structural racism. You ain't getting to feel good about yourself. And you're not able to get that reinforced because all the people that's close to you feeling the same way you feel. So you praying every day. The Muslims pray 5 times a day. You pray 25 times a day because you need it. They got some money. When you go up to the Arab store, and I'm sure that's consistent across all America, they own all these little convenience stores and gas stations. The white man gave that to them because they took over their country. So here, I owe you this. You can get this loot. Right? That makes sense. So you need to pray 25 times a day. You also need to look in the mirror and talk to yourself and say, I am somebody, like Dr. King, Jesse Jackson Sr. reminded us, and so many legions of black heroes and black heroines that have come, that we stand on their shoulders this moment and gave us the significance that we experience. How important these people are and have been in our lives to carve out a new destiny for black people. That somehow, some way, like Dr. King reminded us, we're going to make a way out of no way. Because God will do that for you. So we need that prayer. We need that self-talk, looking in the mirror. And we need to be good to ourselves by eating the right foods. We know we live in food deserts and food swamps where you get no fresh fruit and vegetables. That means no grocery stores, right? And then your food swamps, you got all them toxic restaurants. I don't need to name them. You know what they are. They sell burgers and fries and chicken wings and all that garbage, which is GMOs and trans fats that will kill you. That are the chief cause of cardiovascular disease, cancer, you name it, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, mood swings, you name it. All that BC, all that stuff, because that's a war being waged on black people. So pray every day, all throughout the day. Look at yourself in the mirror. Talk to yourself. Say good things to yourself and say good things to other people. And do everything you possibly can to fight your way out of this war that they've indirectly waged on us every day. Well, let me rephrase it. Directly and indirectly. When I say indirectly, I know when we talk about war, we talking about they got a gun, you got a gun, y'all shooting each other. No. They don't need no guns to destroy us. All they need to do is not tell us that we good, that we wonderful and dynamic and genius and beautiful and handsome. That's all they got to do, is never tell us that. And then we never hear that. And then we take it as, if I'm not that, I must be the opposite. And that opposite belief kills us. And that's why you have such high rates of suicide, drug dependency, obesity, and disease, because we don't have the serotonin, dopamine you get from the good foods and the good mood you get from believing in yourself. We suffer through all that because of the war they waged on us, without giving us that social esteem, once again, that leads to that self-esteem and that self-love and that dignity and that respect and the honor we have for ourselves. And we can met that out to our fellow brothers and sisters to bring harmony to the black community. And once we understand that we are under attack in that way, then that'll give us a different attitude towards life, a different motivation, a different encouragement, and in a different determination to make it. Peace out, my brothers and sisters. Ron Magnet, your brother and friend, had to come at you again with a very powerful, life-enhancing, life-saving message. There's always a message of hope, redemption, and salvation. Over and out. Thank you. Peace.